best way. Good evening, everybody.
Do you want the keys back yet?
We're getting there.
Oh,
Hang on to it maybe one more time, and I'll ask Ben if I can collect them. I wanna make sure that we're, yeah, the little key fobs work, yep.
yeah, if you don't lose them.
You don't lose them.
I wasn't gonna bring it up, but I did, so.
I still have it.
Yeah, Jack.
Good for you.
I wasn't worried about Jack losing one, but I guess I should have been.
It's in your truck someplace.
It probably is.
Oh, really?
Grand total.
He's already lost it.
It'll be $160
Or-
fine.
Don't trust God to balance the budget next time.
We'll garnish your wages, it'll be fine. Kate, you good to go?
Yep.
Brenda?
Yep.
All right, let's get started. Good evening, I call the meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Bath Township Board of Trustees to talk about the budget for fiscal year '25. It's Monday, October 7th. Let's start with the roll call.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Here.
Ms. Butler Challenger here. Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Ms. Hagerman?
Here.
Ms. Kellerman?
Here.
Mr. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Here.
Thank you.
I think everyone should check their microphones while we're at it. I know mine was off, so you might need to turn yours on. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance and then move to a moment of silence. So please stand if you're able to join us for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now a moment of silence. All right, thank you. Item number 3 is the approval of the agenda. I have not heard any alterations to this special meeting agenda. Did anyone have anything they wanted to move about, add, or take off? All right, then I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion or questions on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have an agenda. Are there any disclosures of conflicts of interest as we talk about the budget? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Item number 5 is public statement 1. This is limited to 3 minutes, designed for statements concerning current agenda items. There will be a second opportunity at the end of the meeting for public statement, where folks will have an additional 3 minutes to comment on any topic they feel they would like to share with us. Is there anyone in the public who would like to use public statement tonight? No, there is not. So we'll move right into number 6, new business, items for introduction discussion, 2025 budget review. Karen, do you want me to talk about where we've been, or do you want to do that?
No, I would like you to do that. Thank you.
Per our last meeting, well, the last meeting I was at, sorry, you guys met without me for a meeting. We had agreed to set 2 meetings apart for the finance committee to look at the budget and 2 meetings apart for the full board to look at the budget. What you have hopefully in front of you or saw electronically is the latest version, which is the finance committee's recommendation to this body for the budget. We added some things, took away some things. We learned new information during the time frame we were meeting, so you'll see that reflected. Your budget should have 2 columns at the right side, one that says Finance Committee recommendation and one that says Superintendent's recommendation. So what has been dropped from that is, I think, the department director's request. Is that
Correct.
what that was?
Yes.
So now you'll see those 2 items. The Finance Committee has 0 authority to change the budget for all of us, so these are recommendations to you. As hopefully you saw my email, the plan tonight is to go page by page, but not line by line, unless you all have questions on any given line. That's meant to keep us moving, to keep us to these 2 meetings that we've agreed to have. We're hoping to get to page 20 tonight, but if we can't, we can't, and we'll recoup at our next meeting. Any questions or Finance Committee members, anything I missed on that? The last thing I'll say before turning it over to the superintendent is the budget that she provided to us had deep cuts from budgets in previous years. Cuts in ways that I think are really helpful for us, not cuts in ways that I think will harm the township, based mostly on what has happened in the past. So I want to thank the superintendent and her leadership for that, consistently planning to draw down $1.5 million in our fund balance just is not a sustainable way to live or to buy fire trucks or do any other things that we want to do. So I appreciate that leadership and I appreciate the finance committee for taking one more hair slice of that in our recommendation. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Karen.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm going to touch upon some items in the memo that was released with the budget from the Finance Committee. There were some additional cuts for those of you that have been here before and gone through this process. What you'll notice is new is some arrows to the right side of both the memo and the budget that's been presented to you to let you know where the Finance Committee made changes to the budget. Some have noted that that's extremely helpful, so I tried to carry that both through the memo and the budget. If there are any specific questions, please don't hesitate to interrupt and ask your questions. The supervisor is correct. I hope to get through at least 19 pages, which would take us through the end of the general fund tonight. I don't think that'll be difficult. I think that you've seen it now twice here at the board, both when I released it and then prior to this meeting, but I'm happy to answer any questions, so please don't hesitate to interrupt or raise your hand. I'll try to keep an eye on all of you to see if you have any questions. What I may ask as we go through, what I am asking is for a voice vote of, it's not an official vote of this body. I'm going to ask for a voice vote to understand where there is consensus in this budget as we move through each page. That does not mean that you can't ask questions, disagree, or have proposed changes. It just gives me an idea of where we don't have to spend time and where we would like to spend our time. So I will ask for a cursory voice vote as we move through these pages. Again, it is not official. I want to stress that very seriously, that it's not official. It's just to give us a sense of where there's agreement. So.
Karen, could I have one more piece
Sure.
of commentary, since we didn't get to hear from the auditor last meeting? The audit that has been presented brought back in 600,000 plus?
Correct.
Into the fund balance?
Correct.
So I think that's good context as well, even though we budgeted for $1.6 million pulled from the fund balance, Karen and her team actually returned 600,000 plus, almost 650, is that fair?
I think it's 650. I think you're close.
To the fund balance, so that's really helpful.
Yes, agreed. And hopefully we will see that presentation at the next meeting in October. There's been some illness, there's been some scheduling conflicts, so please just bear with us as we try to get the auditor here to give you that report from him. So moving into the memo, so what is proposed at this point is approximately almost $1.7 million in decreases or cuts over 2024. Please note that Ryan is correct, that they do not have the ability to commit this board to a budget, and you will have the opportunity both to take a look and make changes if you feel necessary, both in the general fund and the rest of the funds that are in our budget for next year. This budget currently is going to depend on $618,000 to balance, and that is predominantly in the public safety fund and the senior center fund. And as I noted, this may increase or decrease based on the decisions made by this board as we move through. As you can see down below, the departments of the general fund are listed on the first page and through the second page. Operating transfers out, that $700,000 consists of what I just mentioned, which is the public safety and the senior center fund. It's money that's transferred from the general fund to those funds to make them whole to operate. As I noted earlier, when we discussed the budget, we are looking at employees receiving 3% increases or adjustments based on a wage compensation study by DeWitt Charter Township. Benefits were calculated using an increase of 13%. I know that is high. I really don't know what to anticipate from our health benefits, so it's, in the past, has been double digits. So I tried to plan for that in this budget. As you are all aware, we are moving through some, looking at and trying to make changes to the MERS retirement system, of which all employees of the township are part of. And that work is continuing and will be brought back to you, I believe, before the end of the year. There's an assumption here that no elections will be scheduled for 2025. You will note that this includes a budget for elections in 2025, just in case there are school elections that come up and we had to be prepared for those. We would most likely bring back increases if those were needed to deal with the elections in 2025. This budget assumes a couple of special projects, both strategic planning by the Board of Trustees after the election, as well as an idea that I've generated and I'm very excited about, which is an assessment of the police and fire departments. You'll note in the memo, page 2, maintenance, repairs, and improvements that have been included in this budget are included there. The one that was reduced and removed by the Finance Committee was to update the police squad room furniture layout and conference table. That has been removed, so when this gets updated again, that will not appear there. Vehicles and equipment purchases are listed as well. And infrastructure projects, which most of you know that Webster Road is a major corridor project that will take place in 2025. We're still planning for Chandler Road corridor project in 2026. And then sewer lining and manhole repair may take place in 2025 based on the Webster Road project and funding available. And then our work at SCUMA, which is our sewer facility, continues to take place over in DeWitt. Not funded, you'll see over $500,000 in projects that I did not fund. And at this time, one of the major ones that was brought up as part of the CIP was the Wiswasser Park parking lot reconstruction. We are aware that some of the things that we're doing to improve may be impacted, but I think it was a great idea that we kind of couple or combine some of those projects together to see if we're more competitive for a grant from the state of Michigan. And as you will note, the last item in the list is engine replacement for the fire department. This board has not made, nor has the Finance Committee made any recommendation to this body, and that will most likely come at a later time. I don't know if that'll be 2025 or 2026. So that is a need for this township, but we are trying to still figure that out as far as financing goes. Any questions on the memo? Okay, well, we can move right into the budget. Pages 1 and 2 of the budget are revenue for the township. I had some good news this weekend. The supervisor let me know that revenue sharing has been adjusted, and we are expected to receive about $73,000 more in statutory revenue sharing. So that is good news because we were anticipating about $50,000 and now we're looking at about $73,000 more as of 9/20. So that was definitely good news because we were looking at an actual decrease instead of an increase. I don't know your familiarity with any of these items in the revenue, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Interest on taxes was an area that I had not placed any revenue in, and the Finance Committee actually increased that by a couple $1,000s. The interest, separate from interest on taxes, was decreased by the Finance Committee. We've had a good year of investment returns, but we are not thinking we're going to see that continue. So we adjusted that to be hopefully more in line with the current finances and estimated revenues here in the United States for those types of investments. Are there questions on revenues? I know it's a lot to take in, it's 2 pages, a lot of items there, but if you don't have questions, I will move on. Looking like I can move on. If you'll move to page 3, which is the Township Board. This pays for the trustees' salaries for serving. This also takes care of, staff salaries is an item that actually takes care of committee attendance. And contractual and professional services. If you'll note on page 4, there are some notes. Contractual and professional services are legal attendance at BOT meetings. This is where the strategic planning and committee restructuring has been placed. And this item was increased by the Finance Committee to accommodate those long-term planning resources. Insurance and bonds were also reduced by the Finance Committee. And dues and memberships. We went through and took a look at what they're actually costing us, and we were able to reduce that as well. So several areas cut by the Finance Committee. Overall, from my budget, they saved approximately another $25,000 in those reductions. Questions on the Township Board?
The staff salaries, again, that's attendance at
It's
committee
attendance at
meetings?
committees by committee members.
Oh, okay. So that's all of the miscellaneous
Yes.
committees that are like $30 here and there, whatever
Correct.
it is?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And we're just meeting less? Is that why it's gone down?
So we are taking a
Too many
look at,
vacancies.
I'm going to say restructuring and taking a look at our committees and what we can better do to help them be successful. Any information from the Township Board and helping them understand their roles and their functions. So that will be a planning item, for the Township Board after the election as well. So it's being reduced, because there will be some time where they may not meet because we're working on restructuring.
Okay.
So I would offer that statutory committees like the Planning Commission, ZBA, Board of Review would continue to meet, but the advisory committees may not during that time.
Okay.
But that's a decision to be made by this board.
And also things like the art committee hasn't, I don't think they've met at all this
No.
year, right?
No, they haven't.
So there has been fewer meetings.
Okay.
I don't think the police and fire board have met either.
Very
Right.
infrequently,
They may have met
maybe
once.
once.
Yeah.
Met once.
Any additional questions in Township Board? Hearing none, I would like to ask those in favor of what is currently in front of you, say aye, and those opposed can say nay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Thank you. Moving on to page 5 is the Supervisor's Department. This pays the salary and any payroll deductions, office supplies, operating supplies, mileage reimbursement, dues and memberships, and education and training. The one area that was increased was the education and training, was increased by $500 by the Finance Committee. I think that's a good investment for everyone to continue to obtain training, so I think it's important here. 3% increase for the supervisor, and then mileage is for any training or meetings outside of the township. Are there any questions on this budget? Or this department, I should say. Seeing none? All those in favor of this department, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving to page 6 of the budget is the superintendent's department. This is myself and my 2 employees in my department. Our salaries, telephones, dues and memberships, mileage are all contained within this line department. Excuse me, I'm gonna apparently struggle with that all night tonight. No changes were made from the requested amount to the superintendent's recommendation to the Finance Committee. Are there questions on this department? Hearing none, all those in favor of this department, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. 7 is for the assessors department. The assessor and one staff member, the assessing assistant, and the partial time of a records assistant that scans documents and makes them electronic. This department several years ago committed to electronic documents and not having as much paper. So they've continued that, and then the records assistant is currently assisting with that. Most of the time it's caught up, but as new records are generated, we do transfer those to electronic storage so that we don't have to keep a lot of paper. In my recommendation, there were several line items that I reduced. One of those items is, contractual and professional services. This helps with tax tribunal cases, appeals by apartment buildings, or Meyer has appealed in the past for lower taxes. So that is what funds, this item is what funds that. I have reduced that. It is a large pot of money. In my opinion, it's been probably $50,000, which I consider to be large for a single department. If there are tax tribunal cases, I would come back to you and ask you to fund those. So it is not as if we can't take up against those appeals, that we just aren't going to plan on having a large amount of them for 2025. In addition, benefits would be an item that I have reduced, but certainly may need to be increased as we move throughout the budget year in 2025. Questions?
Is the assessor's salary decreased?
Actually, that contains several items.
Okay.
It contained a longevity increase, which the finance committee removed. That is a discussion that we'll have at this board level of how to deal with longevity. It also includes overtime when the assessor and her staff go out and do, they call it measuring, in the field. They go out and assess people's properties and look to see, it's based off of largely building permits or other items that have notified the assessor that a property has changed in some way. So if there's an addition of a, let's say, a pole barn or garage or something, they go out and they will make sure their records are accurate for that property.
So yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Additional questions on the assessing department? Hearing none, all those in favor of this department say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Page 8 is for the clerk's department. In addition to the clerk, there is the deputy clerk and the assistant to the clerk, so there are 3 people total in this. I overlooked the benefits line item when I put together my superintendent's budget recommendation. I apologize for that. That has now been included. I took a look at 3 areas and decreased operating supplies, printing and publishing, as well as education and training. The Finance Committee also took additional money away from printing and publishing. There will be a decision to be made by this board in the future, discussion to be had regarding the publishing and printing of minutes in our local paper. As you know, the DeWitt Bath Review is no longer around, unfortunately, which forces us to print everything in the Lansing State Journal, which can be very cost, it's expensive, I'll just put it that way. And we have opportunities before us to have those posted on our website and to put a smaller posting in the newspaper that would save us a lot of money referring people to our website for any minutes. So we'll be pursuing that discussion with you as well. Any questions regarding the clerk's department?
What's the, from the 85 for the salary to 89,287? That seems like a strange amount to
So
increase by.
initially, when I made my superintendent's report, or recommendation, excuse me, I had initially based on the Watertown Township, moving the clerk's salary to a higher level. They're significantly smaller than we are. I think they're less than 6,000 people, or we have more than 13,000. With the additional election responsibilities, I think we came to the conclusion that it needed to be more in line with what DeWitt Township pays, and that's actually the DeWitt Township level for 2024.
Okay, so it's
So it
not
puts us a year behind.
really a random number.
No.
It's just- I didn't know if it was like a certain percentage or something, or that's where it came from.
Yeah, it's just moving it in line with the salary survey that they did in DeWitt Township. Additional questions about the clerk's department? Hearing none, all those in favor of this department say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I guess I do have one more question though.
Oh, sure.
It does look like the staff salaries went down.
So those also included some overtime as well. Actually, one of the staff salaries went to 5860, more in line with the deputy treasurer and the deputy clerk being very similar. And then the assistant approximately 48.5. I think,
They won't have overtime next year.
I'm sorry,
They won't have overtime next year.
correct.
Right.
That's why it's less.
But I was just looking from 24 to 25, so you're just saying there would be less overtime then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
As well as, you'll not see it yet, but actually, I believe this position was hired, was it late 23, Brenda, or 24? It feels like
It was
forever.
just this summer.
Just the summer, the assistant, okay.
It's only half a year.
Yeah. Big in June.
Just a few months ago.
I have no sense of time anymore. Everything feels like yesterday or 10 years ago.
Yeah, I get you.
Okay,
Did that
that's
answer
all
your
my
question?
questions.
Okay. Page 9 contains two departments, both engineering, which is our firm that we use is Prine and Newhoff. We meet monthly with them on any projects that are outstanding. We've been working through our sewer master plan, as well as the changes that were going to come as a result of the property changing hands next door, Norm Fasteners. So this remains the same. We are billed a certain amount each month for that meeting. So that will remain the same. Any questions about engineering? I'll quickly move into board review. This is for 5 members of board review. This pays, so they meet 3 times a year, I believe, March, May, and December. This pays for those meetings as well as any mileage to training, printing and publishing that may need to be done as a result of board review meetings. The assessors is required to notice those meetings, as well as education and training for those 5 members. We haven't done anything other than the required training, as we've had these members for several years, and they're doing great, and I don't think much has changed in the last year or so. Questions about board review? Seeing none, I'm going to take engineering and board review together. All those in favor of these departments, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Moving to page 10 is the treasurer's department. 2 areas, it looks like, were reduced by the finance committee, and the mileage was increased. The treasurer receives a stipend for the use of her vehicle for, on behalf of the township. When that moved to benefits is where it should be taken out of. We left no mileage there for the deputy treasurer, should she go to the bank in some official capacity or go to training. So we were just replenishing an amount so that she could use her personal vehicle and receive mileage for that. I did, in my superintendent's recommendation, the prior period adjustment, I did reduce that by $20,000 from the requested amount. That's one of those areas that, should it be necessary to expend any of those dollars, I would come back and ask this board to approve that. But I saw it as an area that hadn't been used greatly in the last few years and thought we could trim up. So, any question regarding the treasurer's department?
And I assume the salary change is the similar reason?
So actually hers is 3%. I had proposed the 85, and in a discussion with the finance committee, actually moved that to 84. To keep that competitive, should this treasurer for some reason not return, or a new treasurer was to come into office, we wanted to make sure that that remained competitive. So it's 3%. It's not, it's actually a reduction from the
Okay, it's
85
just a
that I
reduction
proposed.
from your recommendation.
Correct.
But an increase from last year.
Yes, correct. Any additional questions? Seeing none, all those approve, wow, tonight's not my night. All those, in support of the treasurer's budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Page 11 is computer services. This is where our contractual amount for our IT management company comes from, as well as repair and maintenance of equipment. And dues and memberships is actually the ongoing license fees for the software that we currently have. Any questions in computer services?
Did I hear that we were getting a new webpage?
We are.
Is that
So-
included in here, or is that something separate?
So the 25 that you see will take care of the amount for creating the new website. The 11,200 will be the ongoing maintenance of the
Okay.
site.
Sorry if you already said that.
No, I
missed
did
it.
not. Thank you for asking. Additional questions about computer services?
We had also talked about perhaps we're not replacing all 19
Correct.
computers at once, and that you were gonna manage.
Yeah, the
You and
deputy.
your team.
Yep, the deputy superintendent has a list of the years that the equipment was installed and can do kind of a replacement schedule based on that. So we'll be working through that for the rest of the year and into next year. Additional questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the computer services department, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
I do have one more thought on the
Sure.
website, and I may have said this at the finance committee. I wouldn't be surprised if that did come in more expensive. So I think at that time, what I don't want you all to do is get bids and be like, whoa, this is way too expensive, we shouldn't do it. I think you should bring that back to us. Just
We've-
knowing my own organization did this and it was more money than you ever think it's gonna be.
Yes.
Well worth it, but also like.
Also.
You wouldn't think that it would cost that much.
No, I
but-
think some of the ADA compliance issues may add on to the cost of that. Unfortunately, it'll be a huge step up from our current website, which I developed a few years ago when our other one was hacked into. So what we have currently is not the best we could have, so I am looking forward to a professional assessment and improvement of that site.
Where are we in that process?
Taylor, the deputy superintendent, is currently working with the vendor to identify what changes and needs we have, and then we will be moving forward with the actual implementation of the new site.
Do you think it'll be done by the end of the year?
No,
Okay.
no. It moves a lot slower than we would like it to, so, no. But thank you for asking. That's an important question for everybody to hear the answer to. Okay, any additional questions on page 11? Hearing none, moving to page 12. Ordinance compliance, as you are aware, this is for a part-time ordinance compliance person that we share with the fire department, fire marshal position. So what you see here is generally in the salary benefits and some of the line items, it is shared in half with the, or fire department, excuse me. Education and training, and those items are for just the ordinance compliance officer here in this budget, but this one is far less than others. In addition, I did reduce some of the costs that were proposed. Mainly, he had asked for, requested a new vehicle, which I did not include. So it's significantly less than the requested amount. Any questions on the ordinance compliance department? I was waiting because you all looked like you were reviewing it, so, Mr. Rosecrans.
I see that the benefits have dropped. What was the reason for that?
Those are shared with the fire department, and I think they were budgeted higher than actually needed. So we have reduced those and will adjust those as necessary if the
And so
costs come in
it's gone
higher.
to the fire department.
I'm sorry?
The extra has gone to the fire department?
No, it will be split in half. So if there is any increase, it will be split between the two departments. Additional questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the ordinance compliance department budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Unless I missed it,
Please.
Karen, did we actually, did we do a voice vote on the computer services, or did we skip those? We did, okay.
I wrote
Okay.
that we did one.
Very good, all right.
Do you have additional thoughts on that?
Nope,
Okay.
that just got by me.
I think I did it, and then a couple of questions were asked afterwards. Okay, moving on from the ordinance compliance, page 13 is the election budget. Again, I noted earlier that it is, we still, it's unknown if there will be any school elections. We'll find that out most likely in the first to second quarter of 2025. This is a preliminary budget that would take care of some of those costs should they arise. And if there are no elections, I think the only line item that probably would get used would be the rentals, because we do make payments to one of our facilities a year ahead, is that correct? Okay, so one of our precincts we pay for the year before. So it's possible that some of that money would be expended, but not everything else.
Were there elections in '23?
School election, wasn't it?
No, I was trying to think the library was in '23. I think we had a year off.
Okay.
Yeah, probably the midterms, so probably
It
in
was in
'22.
'22.
Yeah, oh, I was just looking at what you
Looks like we
spent
just bought
there.
supplies. No salaries, so that would indicate,
I think we bought the
No
additional
election, right?
machines in that year. Is that correct,
Yes,
Brenda?
that's
Okay.
correct. Yep,
So if you took that out, you're like at just a few $1,000s.
yeah. The other thing would be the printing and publishing if we had to create like voter cards and stuff, but that doesn't cost very much.
If the election is just a school election, does the school take on any of that cost, or is it, yeah?
It's expended by us initially, and then I believe it's reimbursed.
Oh, okay.
Is that correct, Brenda? Okay.
Okay.
Additional questions on elections? Hearing none, all those in favor of the elections department budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, moving into building and grounds, this department houses a lot of expenses, such as the copier for the township, some of the phones and different items. And it is, anything that's not broken out in other departments. So it is possible that land improvements, could be on things that are not parks. So this encompasses a great deal of our properties and buildings, but not all of them, and I'd be happy to expand more on that if you have additional questions. The notes for this page are on the next page. Some items I did not fund include BCC siding and a furnace replacement. Should those things come up and be a necessity, I would of course bring that back to you. What I did fund were some parking lot crack sealing, and striping, and then some basic building repair and maintenance, and the backup of our generator transfer switch. There's annual testing and maintenance that's done each year. I did fund those items, but like I said, would bring that back to you if there were any additional needs, such as a furnace replacement. Are there questions on this department. Seeing none, all those in favor of the Building and Grounds Department budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? On page 15, you might have missed it at the very bottom, there is legal services. This is the contractual and professional services that this township uses in relation to ordinances, FOIAs, and any other items that we ask legal to assist us on. This is proposed to be the same by both myself and the Finance Committee, so there would be no changes in 2025. Any questions on legal services?
Are you just anticipating fewer services?
From legal?
Yeah. I mean, just looking at 2024, like through the end of last month is already more than the 2025 budget.
So I do think there's some work that can be done to kind of pare back and not go to legal for everything as we've done in the past. That comes with my experience, in both my experience and the board's experience. But of course, they're always available to us and we can ask for their assistance. So if that were to go up, I would come back and ask for that approval.
Can I comment?
Yes, you can.
The other thing too that's interesting about the legal, if you look more at 22, which was, in my memory, a pretty typical year for the services that we offered. In 22, we did projects like worked on marijuana ordinance amendments. We did some pretty typical general services. 23 came with some particular additional services to deal with stuff that was going on at the administrative level as well as the board level. It also sort of flowed through, I think, as in part of 24. So I think you see that project fall off from our office as we've sort of streamlined some of those services. And then the only thing as the year to date, which I would say in the 10 years that I've been working out here, I can think of one. When I first got started, we had a piece of litigation involving a sand and gravel project that we had to go to circuit court on with respect to that gravel mine. Otherwise, we have not had a case like the Park Lake case where we've been sort of involved in protracted litigation on something that's very obvious, but we still have to go through the court system. So both of those, I think, as they sort of fall off and you go back to more of your sort of general use on ordinance and consulting would probably put you back in line with that 60,000.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions on legal services? Hearing none, those in favor of the legal services department budget, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you, and thank you. Moving to page 16, this is the Department of Public Works. Of course, this is the department that takes care of the grounds, the buildings, our cemeteries as well. And is, again, items including rentals of equipment that we need to take care of those facilities or grounds. Equipment purchase, our lawnmowers are on a rotation schedule to be replaced. And you can see in equipment purchase, there are some additional items that are probably need to be replaced, such as our string trimmers that are pretty much in use probably every day of the week somewhere. And roads, this includes the Webster Road project and some general maintenance by the Clinton County Road Commission. I have asked for additional information on crack sealing because I do understand that 2025 is the year that they would be in the southern half of the county and would like to crack seal, so I'm awaiting some information on that so that we can include that here. So after a year where we spent, I think, over $1 million, including ARPA funds on our roads, it's looking to be a year that we return to general maintenance in addition to the Webster Road project. Questions on DPW?
I just have
Please.
one question that's probably gonna seem absolutely ridiculous and probably is. So, $600 is not a lot in this budget, and chainsaws absolutely cost that much. But, and you can't trade in chainsaws, but what's happening, I mean, there's gotta be like 8 chainsaws out there by now over the last 5 years.
I can actually, I can't answer that for you at this time, but I can talk to the DPW director, which is Ben
Or
Steve.
I will if you want me to.
Yeah,
just
that's
to-
fine
okay.
too, you are completely
Okay.
able to do that if you'd like to do that,
Thank you.
yep.
Karen, I have a question for Chris. I know that some of us have family members working in this department. Is that a thing that we should declare as a conflict? Does that matter? Like, how would you appropriately want us to handle that?
So I would say that you're not particularly at this time appropriating and sort of being involved in the actual salary or benefits for those individuals. So I think certainly for the record, you can disclose what they are, but for purposes of approving a budget, I wouldn't take the budget as having actually changed the sort of entitlements to those individual employees. That takes additional action by this board. I think at that time, you should obviously specifically disclose that conflict, and then you would need to likely abstain depending on the relationship. But for purposes of now, feel free, anybody can disclose them. I don't think that it impacts, from my perspective, approving an overall budget, given the fact that you haven't specifically entitled that appropriation to them. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it.
Great, that's very helpful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything additional on this department? Al, please.
Yeah, I still, part of the $600,000 comes from last year's budget, right? The road out here was scheduled for last year. The money was put there and we never used it. So it was put over here.
Yeah, so there has been some money expended in engineering costs that has been billed by the Clinton County Road Commission to the township, and I've taken care of those invoices. I would expect that some additional engineering costs may be realized in this budget year. So you are correct that some has gone back to the general fund because it wasn't used and would be reallocated in 2025 for this department.
Yeah, I think that the cracks, the chipping is, it gives us a lot more for our money. $35,000 for a mile, where it would cost you $500,000 to $1 million, depending on what they had to do. And I think we should consider putting a little bit of money. You don't have anything showing in here from the county, right?
Just the general maintenance that they do, the mowing, the spraying.
Yeah, but the amount we
those are
get from the
included.
state,
Revenue.
we should get about 120,000, right?
Yes, but I haven't heard that. That hasn't been verified by Clinton County as of yet.
Yeah, I know last year they come late to
Yeah.
give to us. I think we should put a little bit of money into that for roads.
How does that touch our books? Because the money doesn't come into us, right?
No, it does not.
It's
So
just
they,
like an offset?
so the applicable projects that they're able to use those funds on is reduced before we receive our bill from them.
Is it pretty much the same every year?
It increases slightly
Yeah.
every year.
Last year was, it was, what, 97, and then I think last year went to about 121.
Yeah. So it goes up, each year,
Depending on what we're doing.
depending, yeah.
Last year was the population that they had gone through and checked out how many people lived here. That's why it went up.
Yeah. It is somewhat based on our, population.
Al, I want to try and understand, are you saying to add the 120 in this budget or additional
I
plus
think
the
we
120?
we should know that there's 120 coming, and that I think we should put some money with it. Everybody drives our roads, and if we don't keep them maintained, we're gonna have a problem. And if we only put 200,000, it would, plus that 120, it would give us a lot of coverage on our blacktop roads.
Do you have any idea of the numbers so that we'll have
This
some
man right here can
idea?
tell you.
Some idea ourselves?
This man right here can tell you.
We were just
Yeah,
discussing roads.
I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
I'd like to see us put 200,000 at least of our own money into it.
Okay, thank you.
So you're saying 200,000 on top of the 600,000 that we're putting in?
Yeah, but part of that 600,000 was last year, was already put back in the budget.
Well, not yet,
400
because that
and
was this
some.
year.
Because
Yeah.
we're still in 24.
So
It
we're
will
still
be-
in that
It will be
fiscal
put
year.
in there.
But you're saying we spent over $1 million.
Well, in
Some was from
terms,
the year before.
so that was in part, we did some, Ann and Gary Drive, we used ARPA funds to do that. I think that was approximately 385,000. I don't know the exact amount. At this time, it's 1.4 million listed in 2024. We've not received all the bills yet for that, and we haven't expended the funds for all of it yet. But 1.4 is approximately what's been planned for.
But not in roads.
Yeah, in 2024. But it came out of ARPA funds, not out of this budget.
Yeah, the 800,000 that you're seeing, it's the bottom line, in 2024 amended.
Yeah.
In addition, there was, I think, 385,000 of ARPA funds that were, so when I misspoke, I was looking at the bottom line and not the roads line, so 800,000 plus the ARPA funds expended, which was another potentially 400,000.
But we've actually only spent 250.
At this time, that's what we've been billed by Clinton County Road
So you're
Commission.
saying you expect significant bills still to come in?
Yes.
He's shaking his head yes.
What's taking so long, man? Don't
Thank
want
you for your support.
The bills are on the way.
My worry is, do we even have capacity to do more? So like, part of what happened this year is we just ran out of people and time to do stuff. So if we keep adding more money, it's a great theory, but can we actually pull it off?
Especially with Webster Road, that's a big project.
They didn't take the bids until the end of September, around September. And so that's the reason that they couldn't get into, do this one until next year.
They didn't bid out this until September?
Right, MDOT.
MDOT. MDOT is doing this?
Clinton County, but the bidding process for the,
They pay a portion of it and we pay a portion. A portion that, the changes and things that they,
Where does MDOT come in?
that we make.
I'm sorry, I just don't know how this works.
this is a Class A road,
This here,
yeah.
okay. So
And
then,
MDOT
would put in money?
would, yeah, they
Now,
pay
listen.
part of it.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Isn't it partially because too, the interchange is within that area that we're trying to do, and they have control over that?
I don't know, perhaps.
I'm not sure.
I don't think we're
Yeah,
touching
thank you.
those, are we?
it'll be from the highway north to Clark Road.
I know, but are we touching the on-ramps? is
Not the
question.
ramps, I'm just saying it's sort of contiguous to them, I think, which.
So do you know how much money the MDOT is putting into it?
I don't know that answer.
How do we find that out?
Ask that man right there.
Or Mark. If Doug doesn't have the answer, Mark would most likely have the answer.
And we can always do a budget amendment later.
The state cleaning of Webster Road,
Correct.
well over $1 million, like 1.6, 1.8 million, something like that. I can get you the actual
That's
numbers
significant.
tomorrow.
Okay.
It's a lot.
And then you all are putting in some and we're putting in some.
Yeah, so we have a match on that, and then the township, your original budget, we added some more federal money to that project, but your budget is still the same, your budget hasn't changed.
Correct.
That's great. So what
Hearing
do
a
you
lot
think
of
about
questions.
In terms of capacity?
Well, I definitely think that we should plan on including the chip sealing, because it is our year and it won't happen for another couple of years.
And that's in here.
Well, it's not.
It's not?
No,
Not
it's
in
not.
there
We
yet.
don't have, we asked them for,
I got a number from them. I think it's 27,000 per mile.
we just don't know how many miles.
I just don't know how many miles.
Part of the 600,000 is for the grass mowing along the road.
Correct.
chip
General
crack
maintenance,
sealing,
yes, that's correct.
The general maintenance.
Spraying, mowing.
I don't think we're gonna spray this year, are we?
I don't believe we sprayed this year, so we've not sprayed next year.
No, so it would, yeah.
We will have chloride in next year, but we did not have chloride this year.
Okay.
It was painful.
I think we may have some better information by the next meeting of this body in October. Would you like me to bring that back for further discussion at that meeting?
Yeah, I think that's helpful.
Okay. All right, are there additional questions about the DPW budget? Hearing none, I'm not gonna take a vote on this at this time, since we'll be talking about it next time. So I'll move to page 17.
Karen, sorry, before you
no,
move
go ahead.
on to that, will you find a way to break out that 600, what you had
Yes.
built into it? I think that'll help us wrap our heads around what's not there and what is there.
Okay.
Did you have something else, Al?
Let's just find this too. I think we should adjourn.
We got 3 more pages. If you can hang in there for 3 more pages. Social services includes such items for payments from this community such as United Way and Meals on Wheels. I, for this amount, have kept it the same. What I will note is that no invoices have been received since at least 2022 from those services. But I would like to keep them there if the groups ask for support.
And they're still doing it, right?
But yes, we just haven't received any invoices.
Great. All these people who don't want to invoice us. That's great.
Okay, questions on social services? Seeing none, all those in favor of this department's budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Those opposed? Okay. Page 18 is Parks and Recreation. This encompasses many of the programs that are put on in this township for people of all ages, children to senior citizens. I did cut this a great deal, about approximately $160,000. The Finance Committee did not have any additional changes. An item that I did not fund was new security cameras at Westwasser Park. And the Westwasser parking lot reconstruction was also not funded, but it does include funding for Park Lake weed treatment and goose busters, which we do annually. Question about Parks and Rec.
Do you suspect that our turnover in the recreation coordinator position is regarding pay?
No, I would offer that both people that have left us recently, it was for very different reasons, and it was for personal reasons as well.
Do you think pay would get a different caliber of person?
We have received a couple of candidates that are indeed qualified for this position. We have not interviewed them yet, so I can't speak to if they're the perfect fit or not. I think we're getting quality candidates. But like I said, I think the reasons the other 2 people left were personal and were very different.
As we talk about putting more into that position, I think we may need to think about, higher caliber is not the right way to describe it, I apologize. It's maybe a more educated, someone with more credentials person, because we've got to have somebody stick around, especially if we give that position more. I mean, you know, you're running the farmer's market right now and senior services and recreation, your team is, so I think that's a place where we gotta figure out how to, and maybe it's not pay, but maybe it's a rethinking of the type of person that we need to get there.
Is this
Yeah.
considered a full-time position?
It is now. Prior, it was 32 hours per week. Moving the senior center coordinator position and the farmer's market position into this allowed it to be a full-time position that was approved by this board.
Okay.
Additional questions on Parks and Rec? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Parks and Recreation Department budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I have one more question.
Sure.
Did that officially happen?
Did what
The
officially
moving the
happen?
senior center coordinator into this position, or is
Yes.
it just, okay.
Okay, so we got through 19 pages. Thank you for hanging in there, and thank you for your thoughtful questions. We have some homework to do before we bring it back to you next time. But thank you for your work today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So to wrap up our special board meeting, we still have a public statement item, so let's do that and adjourn and give maybe 5 minutes for folks to do what they need to do before the next meeting. Does that sound okay?
Yes,
What's that?
thank you.
What's that? I'm not gonna name the things out. You know what I'm talking about. All right, thanks, team, for getting through that. We all moved very much faster than the finance committee did. All right, that brings us to public statement 2. At this point, if there's any public who would like to make a comment on anything you've heard tonight or anything you didn't hear tonight, you have up to 3 minutes to talk about any topic you see fit. We will also have public statements in the next meeting if you'd like to hold off until then. Any public comments from this meeting? All right. Do you mind, board members, if we skip board comments? We'll make sure you get one in the next meeting. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Support.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's plan to start at 6:05. Does that sound okay? Folks probably need to sign the vouchers and do all their other things.
I should know that I didn't take nothing, which means about every 20 minutes. It's all.